The following presentation regarding the hospitality industry, luxury travel markets, and global hotel rating systems is strictly intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information provided does not constitute financial, travel, legal, or professional investment advice. Global hotel star ratings are not governed by a single, standardized international regulatory body, and terms like 7-star are frequently utilized for marketing, branding, and public relations purposes rather than as an official, legally binding certification. Any potential outcomes regarding travel experiences, hospitality investments, or luxury service acquisitions discussed in this presentation are based purely on historical trends, publicly available case studies, and anecdotal industry analysis. The luxury travel market is highly subjective and subject to numerous variables, including macroeconomic factors, regional stability, and rapidly evolving consumer demands within the ultra-luxury sector. Viewers are strongly advised to conduct their own independent due diligence, consult with certified travel professionals, and carefully evaluate their personal financial circumstances before making any significant travel bookings, hospitality investments, or related expenditure decisions. The creator of this content assumes no liability for any financial or experiential loss incurred, based on the educational information presented herein. Let us begin by completely shattering a deeply ingrained myth that the global travel and hospitality industry has spent billions of advertising dollars conditioning you to believe. I want you to close your eyes and picture the absolute pinnacle of luxury. For the vast majority of you watching this, your mind immediately goes to a very specific and familiar image. You are visualizing the grand, imposing entrance of a globally recognized 5-star establishment in New York City, Beverly Hills, London, or Paris. You are picturing the heavy, ornate glass doors swinging open, held by an impeccably dressed doorman in a tailored, perhaps slightly historical uniform. You are imagining the vast expanse of a gleaming Italian marble lobby, the subtle and sophisticated scent of a signature ambient fragrance pumped through the ventilation, the pristine white orchids meticulously arranged on a massive mahogany reception desk, and a penthouse suite offering panoramic views of a breathtaking city skyline. You imagine a highly connected concierge who can somehow secure reservations at a fully booked, exclusive Michelin-starred restaurant, 800 thread-count Egyptian cotton sheets turned down perfectly every evening, and a subterranean spa that feels like a silent sanctuary away from the deafening chaos of the modern world. In the United States, and indeed across much of the Western Hemisphere, this is considered the absolute gold standard. This is the mountaintop. This is what you save up for over years, what you aspire to experience for a honeymoon, a major anniversary, or a defining career victory. We have been systematically taught that 5 stars represents the absolute, impenetrable ceiling of human hospitality, comfort, and service. But what if I told you that this widely accepted 5-star standard, this supposed peak of aspirational luxury, is merely the entry-level tier for the global ultra-wealthy? What if I told you that while you are standing in a polite line at that beautiful marble reception desk waiting to present your premium credit card and hand over your passport, there is an entirely different echelon of humanity experiencing a level of service so profoundly personalized, so absurdly lavish, and so fundamentally different in its operational structure that it makes traditional 5-star luxury look like a roadside motel by comparison? Consider a historically documented case study from the late 1990s and early 2000s, a specific moment in time that permanently disrupted the hospitality industry and forced a paradigm shift in how we categorize wealth and service. A prominent British journalist was sent on assignment to review an unprecedented architectural marvel, rising from a man-made artificial island off the coast of Dubai. Upon arrival, the journalist was utterly baffled because the traditional metrics of evaluating a hotel failed completely. There was no bustling reception desk in the lobby because guests of this caliber simply do not stand in line. Instead, they were greeted personally upon arrival and escorted directly to their sprawling duplex suites by way of private, restricted elevators. These suites were larger than most American suburban homes, featuring private dining rooms, personal libraries, sweeping grand staircases, and cinema rooms. Every single guest was assigned a dedicated, highly trained personal butler who had exhaustively researched their preferences, dietary restrictions, and habits before they even boarded their inbound flight. The interior walls were quite literally covered in thousands of square feet of 24-karat gold leaf, catching the Arabian sun in a dazzling, almost blinding display of sheer wealth. The transportation fleet did not consist of standard black town cars or premium SUVs, but rather an entire fleet of custom-commissioned white Rolls-Royce Phantoms parked flawlessly in a row. And for those who preferred to avoid ground traffic entirely, a private helicopter pad suspended near the very top of the sail-shaped structure offered direct, uninterrupted access to the property. The sleep experience was not merely a high-quality mattress, but a master suite offering a specialized menu of 17 different types of pillows, curated to the specific ergonomic needs and preferences of the guest. The journalist, struggling to convey the sheer magnitude and scale of the opulence to the public back home, famously declared that calling this establishment a five-star hotel was a statistical insult. She coined the phrase seven-star hotel in her review, and in that exact defining moment, the invisible hierarchy of global wealth and elite hospitality was suddenly exposed to the masses. But this raises a critical burning question that has plagued the travel industry, economists, and luxury consumers ever since that article was published. Is a seven-star hotel genuinely a different operational and economic model, or is it merely a five-star hotel with a significantly larger budget for gold paint, expensive materials, and aggressive marketing? What is the actual, tangible difference in the human psychology of the service provided? There is a very specific, almost invisible psychological threshold that separates a highly efficient five-star experience from a transcendent seven-star phenomenon, a secret strictly guarded by the world's most elite and highly compensated hoteliers. And once you see this invisible line, once you understand the mechanics behind it, you will never look at luxury customer service or the deployment of extreme wealth the exact same way again. Today, we are undertaking a comprehensive, visual, and analytical masterclass specifically designed to decode this exact mystery for our American audience. Whether you are an aspiring global traveler plotting your next major journey, a business professional looking to understand elite customer psychology to apply to your own ventures, an entrepreneur seeking to permanently elevate your client experience, or simply someone deeply fascinated by the hidden mechanics, logistics, and lifestyles of the ultra-wealthy, this deep dive solves a massive problem for you today. The central problem is the relentless deception and dilution of modern luxury marketing. Every single brand, from mid-tier domestic airlines offering slightly more legroom to premium credit cards offering airport lounge access, uses the word luxury to the point where the term has lost all tangible meaning and impact. The modern hospitality industry actively relies on this consumer confusion, hoping you will accept slightly better amenities, a softer towel, and a polite greeting as the absolute pinnacle of service. By the end of this comprehensive visual guide, you will possess a concrete analytical framework that completely cuts through the marketing manipulation. We are going to mathematically and operationally strip away the gold leaf, the crystal chandeliers, and the expensive imported marble to examine the raw, underlying data of elite hospitality. We will rigorously analyze historical trends in global wealth concentration and trace exactly how these financial shifts birthed this entirely new category of extreme lodging. We will dissect the crucial staff-to-guest ratios, analyzing case studies where properties maintain a staggering ratio of 6 to 8 staff members for every single guest, ensuring an invisible but omnipresent web of flawless service. We will explore the complex architectural psychology of privacy versus visibility, detailing exactly how seven-star properties are meticulously engineered to prevent high-profile guests, celebrities, and heads of state from ever crossing paths with one another if they choose to remain unseen. We will look at the astonishing supply chain logistics required to source the rarest materials on Earth, from highly allocated beluga caviar to vintage, limited production champagnes, delivering them to a single hotel room on a moment's notice. We will provide detailed case studies contrasting standard, highly efficient luxury operations in major U.S. markets like New York and Los Angeles against the unprecedented, largely unregulated opulence found in specific, highly concentrated pockets of the Middle East and Asia. You will learn how to identify the invisible hallmarks of a seven-star operation, focusing heavily on anticipatory service models where staff are trained to solve complex problems and fulfill desires before you even consciously realize they exist. You are not just going to see beautiful rooms on a screen. You are going to deeply understand the precise mechanics, the unforgiving economic models, and the psychological mastery that successfully justifies a $30,000 per night price tag. This is your ultimate, unfiltered roadmap to the absolute highest echelons of global hospitality, beginning right now. To truly grasp the chasm between five-star excellence and seven-star transcendence, we must fundamentally dismantle how we understand customer service. In the traditional hospitality sector, even at the absolute highest levels of five-star luxury, the operational model is built entirely on a foundation of reactive excellence. Reactive excellence simply means that when you, the guest, make a request, the hotel executes that request with maximum efficiency, zero friction, and absolute politeness. Imagine if we look at a highly successful American corporate executive, let us call him David from Chicago, traveling to London in the current year 2026 for a complex merger negotiation. David books a suite at a globally renowned 5-star property in Mayfair. When David arrives, the doorman greets him warmly by name because the Bell staff communicated his arrival via earpiece. David goes to his suite, realizes he needs his suit pressed for a dinner meeting, and picks up the telephone to call the valet. The valet arrives in under 4 minutes, takes the suit, and returns it immaculately pressed in 20 minutes. Later, David calls the concierge to secure a reservation at a highly exclusive West End restaurant. The concierge leverages their local network and secures a table. This is textbook reactive excellence. David had a problem, David communicated the problem, and the hotel solved the problem flawlessly. This is the bedrock of the 5-star experience, and it is a phenomenal logistical achievement. But it is fundamentally transactional. It requires the guest to do the mental labor of identifying their own needs and actively initiating the solution. Now, we cross the invisible threshold into the 7-star paradigm. At this ultra-elite tier, reactive service is considered a failure. If a guest has to pick up a telephone to ask for something, the hotel believes they have already compromised the experience. The 7-star model is built entirely on anticipatory intelligence. This is a highly sophisticated, data-driven approach to human behavior where the staff is trained to fulfill a desire before the guest even consciously registers that the desire exists. Let us examine a contrasting case study involving Elena, a technology entrepreneur from Miami, traveling in 2026 to a hyper-exclusive 7-star desert resort in the Middle East. The anticipatory intelligence gathering begins weeks before her private jet ever touches the tarmac. A dedicated lifestyle manager subtly coordinates with Elena's executive assistant, compiling a comprehensive dossier on her habits, dietary requirements, ergonomic preferences, and daily routines. When Elena arrives, there is no check-in desk. She is greeted by her personal, dedicated butler, who has been specifically assigned to her for the duration of her stay. This butler has undergone years of specialized training, often including behavioral psychology and micro-expression analysis, allowing them to read a guest's mood and physical state with terrifying accuracy. As Elena is escorted from her custom luxury vehicle to her multi-story villa, she offhandedly mentions to her butler that the desert glare has given her a slight tension headache. That single fleeting sentence triggers an invisible cascade of perfectly synchronized actions. By the time Elena walks through the hand-carved mahogany doors of her villa, the ambient smart lighting system has already been programmed to a precise, dim lux level specifically designed to soothe optical strain. The automated blackout curtains in the master bedroom are fully drawn. The ambient temperature has been lowered by 2 degrees to promote physical relaxation. And resting on the imported marble side table next to a plush reclining chair is a specific, rare herbal tea historically known for alleviating migraines, brewed to the exact optimal drinking temperature. Elena never asked for the lights to be dimmed. She never asked for the curtains to be closed. She never picked up a menu to order tea. The environment seamlessly adapted to her physical state in real time. This is anticipatory intelligence in action. To execute this level of telepathic hospitality, we must look at the raw mathematics and historical trends of human capital. The difference in the underlying economic model is staggering. A highly profitable, top-tier 5-star hotel in a major United States market typically operates on a staff-to-guest ratio ranging from roughly 1.5 to perhaps 3 staff members for every single guest. This means if the hotel is at maximum capacity with 300 guests, there is a rotating staff of perhaps 700 people working across all shifts to maintain the property, cook the food, and clean the rooms. A 7-star establishment completely shatters this mathematical ceiling, operating on an economic model that defies traditional hospitality profitability metrics. Historical data and industry analysis of these ultra-luxury properties reveal a staggering staff-to-guest ratio of 6 to 1, and in some highly publicized case studies, an astonishing 8 to 1. For every single individual sleeping in that hotel, there are 8 full-time professionals entirely dedicated to their comfort. What exactly are these 8 people doing? They form what industry insiders call the invisible workforce. While a 5-star hotel might have one excellent concierge serving 300 rooms, forcing you to wait in line or wait on hold, the 7-star model provides a dedicated team for your specific floor or suite. You have your primary butler, who unpacks your luggage with white gloves, organizing your garments by color and fabric type in a walk-in closet larger than most urban apartments. You have a dedicated culinary consultant who does not just hand you a room service menu, but sits down with you to design custom, off-menu dining experiences based on your exact cravings that day, sourcing ingredients globally overnight if necessary. Consider the mechanics of daily housekeeping. In a 5-star hotel, a single housekeeper might spend 45 minutes turning over your room while you are out. In a 7-star property, housekeeping operates via a synchronized swarm technique. The moment you leave your suite for breakfast, an invisible sensor alerts the floor manager. A highly choreographed team of 4 to 5 specialists immediately enters the suite. One person focuses exclusively on the marble surfaces, another on the linens, another on restocking the customized amenities, and another on precise technological alignment, ensuring every remote control is placed at the exact same geometric angle it was when you arrived. The entire process takes less than 12 minutes. By the time you finish your morning coffee and return to your suite, the environment has been flawlessly reset to its original state, and you never saw a single cleaning cart or cross paths with a single staff member in the hallway. The sheer manpower required to maintain this illusion of effortless perfection is mind-boggling, representing an astronomical labor cost that drives the breathtaking nightly rates. But this massive deployment of human capital is entirely useless if the physical environment is not engineered to support it. To successfully execute this level of invisible, hyper-personalized service, the actual building itself cannot be constructed like a normal commercial hotel. There is a hidden subterranean world of logistical corridors, completely separate service elevators, and brilliant architectural secrets built specifically to keep these 8 staff members utterly invisible until the exact millisecond their presence is required. The architecture itself must become an active instrument of luxury, prioritizing absolute privacy over everything else. And when we peel back the classified blueprints of these billion-dollar megastructures to reveal how the ultra-wealthy are kept completely isolated from the outside world, the engineering involved is nothing short of revolutionary. To understand this revolutionary engineering, we must explicitly examine the concept of dual-layered architectural circulation. In a standard, highly respected luxury 5-star hotel in Manhattan or Chicago, the back-of-house operations are certainly hidden away behind unassuming keycard locked doors. However, the service staff, the room service carts, the maintenance technicians, and the housekeeping trolleys ultimately have to utilize the exact same primary hallways and frequently the same main lobby floors as the guests. It is an inevitable, structural intersection of the workforce and the clientele. If you walk down the hallway of a premium 5-star property, you will inevitably hear the faint clinking of dishes being cleared or the subtle hum of a commercial vacuum cleaner through a heavy wooden door. A true 7-star property completely eliminates this intersection through hundreds of millions of dollars of deliberate, highly complex structural engineering. These properties are meticulously constructed with parallel, completely independent circulatory systems. Behind the immaculate, silk-lined walls of your suite is an entirely separate, invisible network of soundproofed service corridors, dedicated staff elevators, and massive subterranean logistics hubs. Imagine if we follow Marcus, a highly successful Silicon Valley venture capitalist, taking a highly sensitive, confidential corporate retreat in the year 2026 to a renowned ultra-luxury desert property in the United Arab Emirates. Marcus is currently brokering a massive, multi-billion-dollar technology acquisition and absolutely cannot be photographed, observed, or even casually seen by industry competitors or international financial press. When Marcus arrives at the property, his customized security motorcade does not pull up to a grand front entrance for a public, highly visible display of status. Instead, historical trends in ultra-luxury structural design dictate that his vehicle is seamlessly routed down into a highly secured, climate-controlled subterranean arrival vault. From this private, vault-like environment, a dedicated, biometrically secured elevator takes him directly upward, opening immediately inside the foyer of his sprawling penthouse suite. He bypasses the lobby, the reception desk, and the public areas entirely. He has successfully entered the property without a single unauthorized human being confirming his presence. Now consider exactly how Marcus receives his daily meals, or requests a specific garment to be tailored. His dedicated culinary team is preparing his custom, multi-course dinner in a state-of-the-art subterranean kitchen, located far below the surface. To deliver this incredibly delicate food hot and pristine, the staff utilizes a complex, heavily monitored network of underground transport tunnels connected to dedicated service elevators that open strictly into a hidden butler pantry located entirely within Marcus's suite. The butler plates the food in this hidden pantry and steps seamlessly into the dining room to serve. The illusion is that of magic, but the reality is millions of dollars in concrete and steel dedicated exclusively to the logistics of invisibility. This architectural mastery goes far beyond just hidden hallways and private elevators. It delves deeply into advanced, almost military-grade acoustic engineering. In a premier 5-star hotel, you might still hear the faint, muffled sounds of a metropolitan city roaring below or the guest next door dropping a heavy piece of luggage onto a hardwood floor. In a 7-star environment, the acoustic isolation must be absolute and impenetrable. Historical case studies of these megabuilds reveal the extensive use of floating floor structural engineering. This means the actual floor of the luxury suite is physically decoupled and separated from the main concrete structural slab of the building using thick, industrial acoustic isolators. The interior walls are constructed with specialized sound-dampening acoustic polymers and multiple, staggered layers of varied-density drywall, essentially creating a sophisticated, soundproof bunker suspended in the sky. The glass surrounding these suites represents another staggering leap in engineering. It is almost never standard double-pane commercial window material. It is frequently ballistic-rated, triple-glazed glass infused with specific, invisible metallic coatings engineered to completely deflect thermal heat, harsh ultraviolet radiation, and exterior urban noise pollution, all while maintaining a flawless, distortion-free panoramic view of the horizon. Marcus can sit in absolute, deafening silence while a massive, chaotic city operates at full capacity just hundreds of feet below his balcony. Furthermore, we must rigorously analyze the environmental engineering and indoor air quality. In a 5-star establishment, you are subjected to a high-end, but ultimately centralized commercial heating and cooling system. The air you breathe is shared, filtered centrally, and distributed throughout the building. In contrast, 7-star properties deploy bespoke, individualized environmental control systems for every single residence. These systems utilize hospital-grade HEPA filtration capable of scrubbing the air of microscopic particulates, allergens, and pathogens before it ever enters the suite. Beyond mere purification, these systems feature advanced olfactory engineering, allowing the dedicated butler to program specific, subtle ambient scents into the precise microclimate of different rooms within the suite, pumping a relaxing lavender essence into the master bedroom while maintaining a crisp, energizing citrus profile in the private office area. The financial reality of constructing a building in this deeply specialized manner is astronomically high, and it perfectly explains the exponential jump in consumer cost. When a traditional commercial developer decides to build a 5-star hotel, they are fundamentally motivated by maximizing the buildable, rentable square footage to generate continuous daily revenue. Every single square foot dedicated to a hidden service hallway, an oversized acoustic wall, or a private butler pantry is a square foot that cannot be actively sold to a paying guest. Therefore, the deliberate architectural decision to build a dual-layered, highly isolated circulatory system actively sacrifices a massive percentage of potential revenue space in exchange for unparalleled privacy and invisible service execution. The financial modeling behind these ultra-elite properties rigorously demands charging tens of thousands of dollars per night simply to justify the massive amount of unmonetized, heavily engineered space dedicated entirely to keeping the operational logistics hidden from view. For the ultra-wealthy elite, absolute privacy is the ultimate, non-negotiable luxury currency. It is the profoundly rare ability to exist in a sprawling space where they are not perceived, observed, or evaluated by the general public. It is a psychological sanctuary manufactured entirely through concrete, steel, and brilliant architectural foresight. Every single minute detail, from the precise, calculated placement of the massive air conditioning vents to eliminate any ambient mechanical hum, to the specific physical grading of the subterranean entry ramps engineered to prevent vehicle suspension noise, is meticulously calculated during the initial blueprint phase. But while the structural engineering creates the necessary invisible, silent fortress, the actual physical materials utilized to construct and furnish the interior of this fortress tell an entirely different, arguably more staggering financial story. The exact moment you step out of that private biometric elevator and walk into the suite itself, you are no longer just looking at a hotel room. You are standing inside a highly curated private museum of the rarest, most highly allocated physical materials on the face of the earth. And when we rigorously examine the actual global supply chains required to source the specific exotic marble, the bespoke handcrafted textiles, and the customized integrated technology that lines every single inch of these walls, you will finally understand why even the most heavily funded 5-star luxury hotels simply cannot compete with this level of extreme material acquisition. To comprehend this extreme material acquisition, we must first look at the very foundation of the visual experience, starting with the stone beneath your feet. In a highly respected, globally recognized 5-star hotel, the procurement division typically operates by ordering tens of thousands of square feet of premium, grade A commercial marble. It is objectively beautiful, highly durable, and presents a clear aesthetic of wealth. However, it is ultimately a mass-produced commodity. In the 7-star operational model, the architectural firm representing the property will literally purchase the exclusive rights to a specific, historically significant vein deep within a quarry in Carrara, Italy, or a remote mountainous region of Brazil. They do not just buy the extracted stone, they buy the geological anomaly itself. The designers dictate that every single slab utilized in a specific master suite must perfectly book match. This means the natural gray, gold, or blue veining flows seamlessly from the floor, up the walls and across the ceiling without a single interruption in the visual pattern, creating an immersive, continuous piece of natural art. This rigorous requirement necessitates extracting massive, monolithic blocks of stone intact, a highly dangerous and exorbitantly expensive process with a failure rate that makes traditional hospitality developers completely abandon the idea. The sheer wastage, the massive pieces of flawless marble discarded simply because the internal vein deviated by a fraction of an inch, represents millions of dollars of lost capital. But in the 7-star ecosystem, absolute visual perfection supersedes all standard metrics of financial efficiency. Imagine if we follow Sarah, a senior corporate litigator from New York navigating a highly stressful, high-stakes international merger in the year 2026. When Sarah walks into the primary bathroom of her 7-star standalone villa in Abu Dhabi, she is not stepping onto standard luxury tile sourced from a catalog. She is stepping onto a continuous, unbroken slab of highly polished lapis lazuli or rare Amazonian rock crystal. The bathtub itself is not constructed from premium cast iron or high-grade fiberglass. It is a bespoke, custom-engineered vessel meticulously carved by hand over thousands of hours from a single massive boulder of raw amethyst or solid copper. This specific vessel is mathematically designed by thermodynamic engineers to retain the thermal heat of the water at an exact, calculated temperature for an extended period, entirely eliminating the need for the guest to constantly adjust the faucets. This is not merely a bathroom fixture. It is a museum-grade installation placed inside a private residence. Now let us rigorously analyze the textiles, specifically the sleep environment, because restorative sleep is arguably the ultimate, most heavily guarded commodity for the global ultra-wealthy. A premier 5-star hotel proudly advertises 800 thread-count Egyptian cotton sheets and an extensive pillow menu. This is a phenomenal, highly comfortable product. However, historical trends in hyper-luxury procurement dictate that cotton, regardless of how refined or meticulously woven it may be, is fundamentally a mass agricultural product available to the general public. The 7-star property completely discards the traditional cotton paradigm. When Sarah lies down to sleep, she is enveloped in bespoke linens woven exclusively from lotus flower silk or authentic vicuna wool. Vicuna is ethically harvested from wild camelets in the high Andes of South America under strict, heavily monitored government regulation, yielding only a minuscule amount of fiber per animal every few years. It is exponentially softer, lighter, and rarer than the absolute finest cashmere on the global market, presenting a texture that completely redefines physical comfort. The pillows resting on this bed are not stuffed with standard, commercially available goose down. They are filled with authentic, hand-harvested Icelandic eiderdown. Eiderdown is not forcefully plucked from a bird. It is meticulously and carefully gathered by hand from the naturally abandoned nests of wild eider ducks in the freezing coastal regions of Iceland. This is a painstakingly slow, highly specialized process that yields only a few thousand pounds globally per entire calendar year. The mattress beneath Sarah is completely bespoke, constructed without a single drop of synthetic polyurethane foam or standard metal springs. It utilizes layers of imported horsetail hair, raw organic silk, and hand-teased wool, custom-tensioned and physically constructed to perfectly align with Sarah's specific skeletal structure and preferred sleeping posture. This physical data was subtly gathered by her dedicated lifestyle manager weeks prior to her arrival through a brief consultation with her personal physician or executive assistant. This single bed represents a raw material investment, frequently exceeding $150,000. We must also critically examine the environmental hardware and the custom millwork lining the walls. A premium 5-star hotel utilizes high-end, commercial-grade brass or polished chrome fixtures that effectively mimic the appearance of solid precious metals. A true 7-star property utilizes actual, solid precious metals. The door handles, the complex plumbing fixtures, and the tactile light switches are frequently cast in solid bronze, thickly coated in multiple layers of 24-karat gold, or precisely engineered from aerospace-grade titanium. The wood paneling lining the private library or the primary dining room of the suite is never a thin, attractive veneer pasted over medium-density fiberboard. It is solid Macassar ebony or ancient, reclaimed bog oak that has been completely submerged in oxygen-deprived peat bogs for thousands of years. This ancient wood possesses a natural density, a striking visual darkness, and an acoustic dampening quality that modern commercial lumber simply cannot replicate under any circumstances. The craftsmanship required to mold, fit, and polish these hyperdense, incredibly rare woods demands a specialized, highly compensated workforce of master artisans whose specific skills are rapidly disappearing in the modern era of automated manufacturing. Even the illumination overhead is a masterclass in extreme material acquisition. The chandeliers are not standard crystal drops assembled in a factory. They frequently feature hand-blown Murano glass, individually custom engineered by specific Italian artisans to ensure a precise, mathematically calculated index of light refraction. This ensures that when the ambient light hits the glass, it scatters across the room in a perfectly calibrated, flattering glow that naturally enhances the skin tones of the guests, a subtle psychological trick deployed heavily in the world of ultra-luxury. The sheer financial cost of this material density is staggering. While a heavily funded traditional luxury hotel might spend $500 to $800 per square foot on interior build-out, the 7-star model routinely obliterates this metric, frequently exceeding $10,000 per square foot in pure material costs alone. However, the continuous maintenance of these exotic materials introduces a terrifying operational challenge that requires its own massive, hidden budget. You cannot simply wipe down a solid gold faucet with commercial chemical glass cleaner, nor can you vacuum a priceless hand-knotted silk Persian rug with a standard industrial machine. The chemical reactivity of lapis lazuli, the delicate moisture sensitivity of ancient bog oak, and the fragility of lotus silk require a dedicated, highly trained conservation team operating quietly behind the scenes. This team functions more like museum curators than traditional hotel housekeeping, utilizing specialized, chemical-free cleaning agents and specific environmental controls to ensure these priceless materials never degrade. But acquiring these extraordinary materials and perfectly installing them is merely the static, physical portion of the extreme luxury equation. A beautiful room filled with solid gold, rare silk, and ancient wood is ultimately just a very expensive silent box. The true differentiator, the specific operational element that aggressively elevates this architectural masterpiece into a living, breathing entity of flawless anticipatory service, relies entirely on the invisible, largely classified technological nervous system, wired heavily behind these rare woods and stones. How exactly does a hotel room automatically know your preferred biological temperature before you even walk through the door? How does the building itself quietly track your exact physical location to ensure your dedicated staff is always perfectly positioned exactly one step ahead of you, yet completely unseen by the naked eye? The answers lie in a highly restricted web of sophisticated, data-driven microsurveillance and customized environmental artificial intelligence that completely blurs the line between luxury hospitality and a high-tech espionage operation. To truly understand the sheer scale of this invisible espionage operation, we must first completely discard the traditional hospitality concept of in-room technology. In a highly respected, globally recognized 5-star suite in Beverly Hills or London, technological integration is almost always presented as a highly visible, tangible luxury amenity. You walk into the room and you are immediately presented with a beautifully designed, proprietary digital tablet resting on a marble charging pedestal. This tablet allows you to actively control the automated drapes, order a late-night club sandwich from room service, browse the international television channels, and precisely set the ambient room temperature. This is undeniably convenient, highly efficient, and represents a massive capital investment by the hotel brand. However, it still fundamentally forces the guest to act as the primary, active operator of their own environment. It demands physical interaction, mental processing, and a continuous cognitive load. You still have to recognize that you are too warm, locate the digital interface, navigate the menus, and manually input the command to lower the temperature. In the extreme, largely unregulated financial ecosystem of a 7-star property, the building itself is fundamentally engineered to function as a sentient, highly reactive, and completely invisible organism. The technology is stripped entirely of friction. There are no proprietary tablets, no complex wall panels, and absolutely no digital menus to navigate. Imagine if we follow Michael, a senior aerospace executive from Seattle, traveling to a private, hyper-exclusive peninsula resort in the Mediterranean in the current year 2026. Michael is managing the complex logistics of an international corporate buyout, dealing with massive, disorienting jet lag, and operating under an incredibly high level of cognitive stress. When Michael steps off his private helicopter and is escorted directly into his multi-level coastal villa, he immediately notices a complete absence of visible technological interfaces. However, he is completely surrounded by one of the most sophisticated, densely packed arrays of biometric monitoring equipment available in the civilian sector. Crucially, there are absolutely zero optical cameras inside the private living spaces. The global ultra-wealthy, dealing with highly sensitive corporate mergers or sovereign wealth management, absolutely demand flawless, mathematically guaranteed privacy. The potential outcomes of visual corporate espionage or a catastrophic data breach render standard optical surveillance completely unacceptable and represent a massive liability. Instead, the flawless Venetian plaster walls and the hand-carved ceilings are deeply embedded with a complex, completely hidden mesh of military-grade thermal sensors, ultra-wideband radar arrays, and advanced LiDAR technology. This invisible, frictionless net creates a continuous, real-time, three-dimensional topographical map of the entire villa. It tracks Michael's exact physical presence, his posture, and his kinetic movement down to the millimeter, entirely without ever capturing a single optical image of his face or his sensitive physical documents. The artificial intelligence governing this specific suite acts as an invisible, continuously calculating concierge. Let us rigorously analyze a specific case study of how this technology dictates the sleep and wake cycle. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Michael experiences standard jet lag and decides to get out of his custom-engineered vicuna wool bed. The exact millisecond his physical mass shifts and his feet touch the imported, ancient bog oak flooring, a subfloor pressure matrix instantly registers the change in physical weight distribution. The edge computing servers located deep within the subterranean levels of the hotel instantly process this specific data point with zero latency. The algorithm calculates the precise trajectory of his movement toward the primary bathroom. Instantly, a soft, low-level amber illumination path automatically activates underneath the lapis lazuli baseboards, safely guiding his steps. The specific amber wavelength is scientifically chosen because historical trends in chronobiology prove it will not suppress his melatonin production or disrupt his delicate circadian rhythm, a crucial factor for a businessman who needs to execute a massive financial transaction the next morning. Simultaneously, the radiant heating elements beneath the bathroom tiles dynamically warm to precisely his preferred biological temperature. This exact thermal data point was seamlessly harvested from his previous stays within the global brand network and stored in his highly encrypted digital twin profile. As he approaches the bespoke copper bathtub, the ambient temperature of the bathroom subtly adjusts to prevent shivering, and the exact radio frequency playing his preferred, low-volume acoustic guitar music begins to softly emit from completely invisible, plaster-embedded acoustic transducers. Michael never touched a single light switch. He never interacted with a digital screen. He never spoke a voice command. The environment simply anticipated his biological requirements through raw spatial and thermal data and executed a flawless, frictionless solution. But this astonishing spatial data does not simply remain confined within the walls of the suite. It forms the critical, highly encrypted communication bridge to the invisible human workforce we dissected earlier. Let us return to the logistical mechanics of the synchronized swarm housekeeping technique. In a highly efficient 5-star hotel, you push a physical, illuminated button on the wall that activates a small blue light in the public hallway, signaling a request for the room to be cleaned. The housekeeping staff must visually identify this light, knock gently on the door to ensure you are actually absent, and hope they have enough time to complete the turnover before you unexpectedly return. In Michael's 7-star villa, the precise moment the thermal sensors and LiDAR arrays register that his physical mass has completely exited the primary entry doors and moved toward the private, restricted access golf course, A silent cryptographic ping is instantaneously transmitted to the specialized haptic wearable device on the wrist of his dedicated floor manager. A highly synchronized, merciless countdown timer immediately begins. The invisible workforce instantly knows exactly how long Michael historically plays a 9-hole round of golf, factoring in real-time barometric pressure, current wind speeds on the course, and his historical biometric pacing data. They know with absolute mathematical certainty that they have exactly 1 hour and 14 minutes to deploy the swarm, execute a flawless microscopic reset of the villa, and vanish completely into the subterranean service corridors before he returns. Furthermore, this environmental artificial intelligence governs the precise timing of culinary execution. When Michael begins his walk back from the golf course, the exterior security mesh registers his approach. The suite actively analyzes his physical state, noting a slight increase in his core body temperature based on advanced thermal imaging from the pathway. The dedicated culinary algorithm instantly alerts his personal chef in the subterranean kitchen. Based on established case studies of ultra-elite dietary optimization and Michael's voluntarily submitted metabolic profile, the chef immediately begins preparing a highly specific electrolyte-dense recovery broth, utilizing rare organic ingredients flown in that exact morning from a specific biodynamic farm in northern Italy. The broth is placed into the invisible, climate-controlled butler pantry and served at the precise, mathematically calculated moment Michael exits the thermal shower. To achieve this level of telepathic, completely invisible execution, the property must maintain massive, heavily cooled server farms and localized edge computing infrastructure that genuinely rival the data centers of mid-sized Wall Street financial institutions. Every single interaction, every slightly adjusted room temperature, every specific vintage of wine requested, every micro-adjustment to the ergonomic seating arrangement is meticulously logged, heavily encrypted, and fed into an evolving master behavioral profile. When Michael travels next year to a sister property located in a remote, heavily guarded valley in the Swiss Alps, that entirely new building already possesses his comprehensive digital twin. The structural environment will literally adapt its physical and atmospheric conditions to his exact existence before his private jet even clears international airspace. But while this astonishing, deeply invasive level of invisible technological surveillance flawlessly manages the physical comfort of the guest within the heavily fortified perimeter of the property, it becomes utterly useless the exact moment dealing with external human-driven variables becomes necessary. What happens when the guest decides to temporarily abandon the highly controlled, sensor-laden sanctuary of the hotel and venture out into the chaotic, completely unpredictable, and often dangerous reality of a major global city? How does a 7-star operation guarantee absolute, frictionless perfection when they no longer possess total operational control over the physical environment? The answer lies in a highly classified, heavily militarized logistical network that completely redefines the concept of a hospitality concierge, utilizing extraction tactics, crisis management protocols, and intelligence-gathering operations historically reserved strictly for heads of state and elite government agencies. To truly grasp the magnitude of this transition, we must first analyze the traditional role of a 5-star concierge. In a premier establishment in a major American city like New York or San Francisco, the concierge is a highly connected, impeccably polished professional who specializes in access. If you want a table at a Michelin-starred restaurant that has been booked for 6 months, the 5-star concierge utilizes a deep network of personal relationships and perhaps a significant corporate gratuity to secure that table. They solve logistical problems within the existing framework of the city. This is a high-level service that provides significant value to the premium traveler. However, the concierge is still ultimately a facilitator of existing options. They are bound by the operating hours, the availability, and the fundamental rules of the external world. In the 7-star operational model, the concierge is no longer a facilitator. They are a logistical architect with the authority to rewrite the rules of the environment to suit the guest. This is where we see the deployment of what industry insiders refer to as executive protection hospitality. This model treats the guest not just as a traveler, but as a high-value asset that must be shielded from any form of friction, delay, or unpredictability. Imagine if we look at a case study involving Isabella, a high-profile international fashion mogul from Los Angeles, visiting Paris during the height of Fashion Week in 2026. This is a period where the city is at a total logistical standstill. Traffic is immobile, the most exclusive venues are under siege by paparazzi, and the sheer volume of high-net-worth individuals makes traditional luxury service almost impossible to maintain. Isabella is staying at a legendary 7-star palace hotel that operates its own private, militarized logistics wing. Isabella mentions to her butler at 11 o'clock in the morning that she has seen a specific, rare vintage garment being auctioned in a private gallery across the city, and she would like to inspect it personally before her 2 o'clock runway show. In a 5-star scenario, the concierge would call a premium car service, warn Isabella about the severe traffic, and perhaps try to contact the gallery to see if they can hold the item. There is a high statistical probability that she will be stuck in traffic for 90 minutes, arrive stressed, and potentially miss her subsequent engagement. In the 7-star paradigm, the mention of this desire triggers a high-velocity extraction protocol. The hotel's logistics team does not simply call a car. They activate a prearranged private transit corridor. Historical trends in these ultra-dense urban environments show that 7-star properties often maintain standing contracts with private rooftop helipads and even have the political capital to coordinate with local municipal authorities for temporary street clearances. Within 12 minutes of her request, Isabella is escorted through a private service exit to a waiting, unmarked high-performance vehicle with a driver trained in defensive and evasive maneuvers. This vehicle does not sit in traffic. It follows a pre-scouted, real-time optimized route monitored by a central command center located within the hotel. If the gallery is technically closed to the public for the auction preparation, the 7-star concierge does not ask for permission. They have already authorized a private, 5-figure opening fee to the gallery owners, ensuring the building is cleared of all other people and staff specifically for Isabella's 20-minute arrival. She walks into a silent, private environment, inspects the garment, and is whisked back to the hotel via a different, equally optimized route. The hotel has effectively manufactured a bubble of private reality in the middle of a chaotic global metropolis. This is not just service. It is the aggressive manipulation of urban logistics. We must also rigorously examine the crisis management and medical protocols embedded within this tier of hospitality. For a guest paying $40,000 per night, a sudden health issue or a minor injury is not just a personal inconvenience. It is a catastrophic failure of the luxury experience. While a 5-star hotel has a list of reputable local doctors and perhaps a basic first aid station, the 7-star model integrates hospital-grade medical infrastructure directly into its hidden service layers. Consider a documented case study of a 7-star desert resort. This property maintains a permanent, on-site medical suite staffed 24 hours a day by board-certified emergency physicians and trauma nurses. This suite is not a small infirmary. It is equipped with advanced diagnostic imaging, a private pharmacy stocked with highly specific, temperature-sensitive medications, and even a stabilized surgical theater for immediate intervention. Historical data on these properties indicates they often maintain their own private, ICU-configured medevac helicopters. If a guest like David from Chicago, whom we discussed earlier, experiences a sudden allergic reaction or a cardiac event, he is not waiting for a municipal ambulance to navigate resort traffic. He is treated within 3 minutes by an elite medical team that already possesses his full, encrypted medical history and genetic profile, which was secured during the initial booking phase. This level of preparedness extends to global geopolitical stability. Many 7-star properties, particularly those in emerging markets or remote locations, are engineered with what is known as sovereign-level security. They possess independent power grids, multi-month water filtration reserves, and hardened, subterranean safe rooms that are lead-lined to protect against electronic eavesdropping. The security personnel are not standard mall guards in blazers. They are frequently former members of elite special operations units who operate in a constant state of low-profile surveillance. They utilize facial recognition software at every perimeter point to identify known bad actors, paparazzi, or unauthorized corporate competitors long before they reach the main gates. For the 7-star guest, the potential outcomes of their stay must include absolute physical and informational safety. This is why the concierge at this level acts more like a chief of staff. If a guest loses a highly sensitive encrypted hard drive in a taxi 3 cities away, the 7-star concierge does not file a police report and wait. They deploy a private recovery team, utilize local intelligence networks, and frequently offer significant, immediate financial rewards to ensure the item is recovered and returned within hours. The financial investment required to maintain this level of off-site operational capability is astronomical. It requires a standing army of specialists, drivers, medical professionals, and fixers who are paid high retainers regardless of whether their specific services are utilized on a given day. This is the hidden overhead that a 5-star hotel simply cannot justify on their balance sheet. A 5-star hotel is a business designed to sell rooms and food. A 7-star hotel is a private intelligence and logistics agency that happens to have world-class bedrooms. But even with this level of militarized precision and logistical mastery, there is one final, incredibly subtle element that defines the 7-star experience. It is the one thing that cannot be solved with a helicopter, a gold-plated faucet, or a subterranean server farm. It is the concept of culinary impossibility. While a 5-star hotel offers world-class dining, the 7-star hotel engages in a form of gastronomic alchemy that defies the laws of global supply chains and seasonal availability. When we look at how these properties source ingredients that technically do not exist in their region or season, we uncover a global transport network that is as fast as it is expensive, and it all starts with a single highly specialized individual known as the Global Ingredient Hunter. The Global Ingredient Hunter is a professional role that exists almost exclusively within the 7-star ecosystem. In a prestigious 5-star hotel in a city like San Francisco, the executive chef relies on a network of high-end local purveyors and specialized international distributors. They might source their truffles from a specific region in Italy or their wagyu from a certified farm in Japan, but they are ultimately selecting from a curated list of available inventory. If a specific ingredient is out of season or a supply chain is disrupted by weather, the 5-star chef elegantly pivots the menu to reflect the highest quality alternative. This is a mark of culinary professionalism and seasonal respect. In the 7-star world, the word out of season is an operational profanity. The 7-star guest expects the world to bend to their palate, not the other way around. To facilitate this, these properties employ or contract culinary scouts who spend 300 days a year traveling the globe to secure exclusive rights to the absolute first harvest of any given crop. They are not just buying produce, they are buying time and biological priority. Imagine if we look at a case study involving a billionaire venture capitalist from Austin, Texas, named Robert, who is staying at an ultra-luxury mountain retreat in the Swiss Alps in 2026. Robert mentions at dinner that he has a sudden, nostalgic craving for a very specific type of wild white strawberry that only grows for a 3-week window in a remote, high-altitude microclimate in the mountains of Japan. In any other setting, this request would be politely declined as a botanical impossibility. Within the 7-star framework, the mention of this strawberry triggers a logistical chain reaction. The hotel's ingredient hunter, who is currently in Tokyo, is alerted immediately. A local specialized forager is dispatched to the mountain. The strawberries are handpicked, packed in a customized, temperature-controlled biological transport case designed to maintain a precise humidity level, and driven by a private courier to Haneda Airport. The case is placed on the next available flight, or if timing is too tight, a private light jet is chartered. Upon landing in Zurich, a helicopter finishes the final leg of the journey. Less than 24 hours after Robert made his offhand comment, a bowl of these exact strawberries is placed on his breakfast table, still carrying the morning dew of a Japanese mountain. The cost of this single bowl of fruit, including the specialized labor and the transcontinental transport, can easily exceed $5,000. This level of culinary impossibility extends to the very water served in the suite. While a 5-star hotel provides glass bottles of premium European mineral water, a 7-star property often offers a water sommelier who manages a library of water sourced from melting icebergs in the Arctic, deep volcanic aquifers in Fiji, or even desalinated and mineral reconstituted water designed to match the specific pH balance of the guest's blood for optimal hydration. Historical trends show that these hotels invest millions into on-site laboratory equipment to test every single shipment of raw ingredients for purity, nutrient density, and flavor profiles before a single morsel enters the kitchen. But the actual cooking process is where we see the most profound shift in the human labor model. In a 5-star hotel, the kitchen is a high-pressure, high-efficiency machine designed to produce a consistent, world-class product for hundreds of covers. You order from a menu, and the kitchen executes that dish to a standardized level of excellence. In a 7-star property, the concept of a menu is often entirely discarded for the elite guests. Let us examine the role of the private villa chef. This individual does not oversee a massive brigade. They are dedicated strictly to 1 or 2 suites. Their primary responsibility is to conduct a sensory interview with the guest upon arrival. They analyze Robert's current mood, his physical energy levels, and even the local weather to propose a completely bespoke gastronomic journey. If Robert wants a dish that was served at a specific, now closed restaurant in Paris 40 years ago, The chef does not simply try to replicate it. They utilize the hotel's archival research team to find the original recipe, track down the living sous chef from that era for a consultation, and source the exact heirloom varieties of vegetables used in the original preparation. The physical equipment in these kitchens is also light years ahead of the commercial standards found in five-star establishments. While a five-star kitchen uses high-end rational ovens and Hobart mixers, a seven-star private kitchen is a playground of customized culinary technology. We are talking about centrifuge systems for clarifying liquids without losing flavor molecules, ultrasonic homogenizers that create textures impossible to achieve with traditional blending, and custom-built wood-fired hearths lined with specific volcanic stones chosen for their unique infrared heat signature. Furthermore, the service of this food is a choreographed performance that borders on the theatrical. In a five-star restaurant, the waiter is highly trained in formal service. In a seven-star suite, the service team often includes a dedicated table stylist. This person does not just set the table. They curate the entire visual and tactile environment for that specific meal. They might source antique silver from the 18th century to match a classic French dinner, or commission a local artist to create bespoke ceramic plates that reflect the colors of the sunset visible from the guest's balcony. The historical data regarding waste in these operations is staggering. To ensure that every single ingredient is at the absolute peak of its life cycle, seven-star kitchens often discard up to 60% of their high-end inventory daily. If a bluefin tuna was caught 48 hours ago, it might be acceptable for a five-star Michelin restaurant, but for a seven-star property, it is considered past its prime and is relegated to the staff canteen or discarded. This ruthless pursuit of the absolute freshest state of matter is what creates the massive price gap between a $200 dinner and a $5,000 one. This brings us to a critical realization about the seven-star economy. You are not paying for the food itself. You are paying for the massive global infrastructure of rejection. You are paying for the thousands of strawberries that were not perfect enough to be flown to Switzerland. You are paying for the hundreds of bottles of wine that were rejected by the sommelier because the cork showed a microscopic level of oxygen seepage. You are paying for a world where the word no has been entirely removed from the vocabulary of the staff and replaced by a logistical machine that can manufacture yes out of thin air. But as impressive as a $5,000 bowl of strawberries may be, the seven-star experience ultimately faces a major paradox. All of this physical opulence, architectural silence, and culinary alchemy is designed to serve a human being who is often at the center of immense global pressure. For these individuals, the greatest luxury isn't the gold or the caviar. It is something far more elusive and far more difficult to engineer. It is the ability to control the passage of time itself. And when we look at how seven-star hotels utilize chronobiology and advanced psychological anchoring to literally change how a guest perceives the speed of their day, we enter the most secretive and fascinating territory of ultra-luxury hospitality. How do you make a 3-day stay feel like a 3-week recovery? The answer lies in the hidden science of temporal architecture. Temporal architecture is perhaps the most sophisticated and least understood weapon in the seven-star hospitality arsenal. In a standard 5-star luxury hotel in a high-velocity city like Chicago or London, the management is fundamentally concerned with efficiency. Time is a commodity to be managed. The check-in process must be swift, the room service must arrive within a specific 20-minute window, and the checkout must be seamless to ensure the guest can catch their next flight. The hotel operates on the same clock as the rest of the world. Even in high-end luxury, you are constantly reminded of the passage of time by the subtle cues of the environment. The ticking of a designer clock in the lobby, the scheduled breakfast hours, and the rigid checkout times that signal the end of your stay. In the 7-star paradigm, the hotel actively attempts to decouple the guest from the standard perception of time. This is achieved through a meticulous application of chronobiology and environmental psychology. The objective is to create a state of psychological flow, where the guest loses the ability to track minutes and hours, allowing their nervous system to drop from a state of high beta stress into a deep, restorative alpha or theta wave state. Imagine if we look at a case study involving a character named Jennifer, a high-stakes hedge fund manager from New York City traveling in April 2026. Jennifer lives a life dictated by milliseconds on a trading floor. Her brain is hardwired to react to the relentless ticking of the market. When she arrives at a 7-star island retreat in the Maldives, the temporal architecture begins immediately. There are no clocks in the public spaces. There are no watches worn by the staff. The lighting systems throughout the property do not just dim. They transition through a mathematically calculated spectrum of Kelvin temperatures that perfectly mimic the natural progression of the sun, but with a slight, intentional delay. Historical trends in circadian lighting research suggest that by subtly elongating the transition from afternoon light to sunset by just 15%, the human brain begins to perceive the evening as being significantly longer than it actually is. Jennifer feels as though she has had a 5-hour evening of relaxation when in reality, only 3 hours have passed. This is not a hallucination. It is the deliberate manipulation of the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the part of the brain responsible for the internal clock. The hotel has successfully expanded her subjective experience of time. This temporal control extends to the frequency of service. In a 5-star hotel, service is fast. In a 7-star hotel, service is perfectly paced. If Jennifer is sitting on her private deck looking at the ocean, her dedicated butler is not rushing to ask if she needs a drink. The butler is observing from a distance, perhaps using the thermal sensors we discussed earlier, to identify the exact moment Jennifer's heart rate slows and her posture shifts into a state of deep reflection. Only then does the butler appear, moving with a specific slow cadence gait designed to avoid breaking her psychological flow. The butler does not speak with the hurried, efficient tone of a city waiter. They speak in a lower register, with deliberate pauses, further anchoring Jennifer into a slower temporal reality. Now, consider the architectural use of what is known as transition zones. In a 5-star hotel, you step out of a fast-moving elevator, and you are immediately in the hallway leading to your room. The transition is abrupt. In a 7-star property, the journey from a public space to a private suite is engineered to be a sensory decompression chamber. You might walk through a long, curved corridor with soft, dampened acoustics, where the scent gradually changes from an energizing citrus to a grounding sandalwood. The floor materials transition from hard marble to increasingly soft, deep-pile silk carpets that physically slow your walking speed. By the time Jennifer reaches her door, her physical and mental velocity has been reduced by half. The hotel has physically forced her to slow down before she even enters her sanctuary. We must also analyze the concept of the eternal stay. One of the most jarring aspects of any hotel experience is the looming threat of the checkout time. It is a psychological weight that sits in the back of the guest's mind, reminding them that their luxury experience is a temporary, rented reality. 7-star properties often solve this by implementing a 24-hour flexible stay model. If Jennifer arrives at 4 o'clock in the morning, her 24-hour cycle begins then. There is no noon checkout. There is no cleaning crew knocking on the door at 10 in the morning. The hotel manages its massive invisible workforce to ensure that Jennifer's suite is only serviced when she is naturally absent, and her departure is handled with the same frictionless invisibility as her arrival. The goal is to remove the deadline from her consciousness. Let us look at a specific logistical example of temporal engineering involving culinary service. Imagine Jennifer wants to host a private dinner for 4 people in her villa. In a 5-star hotel, this dinner would likely follow a standard pace. Appetizer at 7, main course at 7:30, dessert at 8. In the 7-star model, the chef and the service team are trained in a technique called biological pacing. They monitor the conversation and the physical engagement of the guests. If the conversation is deep and intense, the kitchen slows down the arrival of the next course to avoid interrupting the intellectual momentum. If the guests are showing signs of fatigue, the pace is accelerated. The meal does not follow a clock. It follows the biological and social rhythm of the table. This mastery of time is what allows a 3-day stay at a 7-star property to yield the same psychological recovery as a 2-week traditional vacation. By removing all the standard markers of time and replacing them with the natural biological flow, the hotel effectively resets the guest's nervous system. For an American executive like Jennifer, this is the ultimate value proposition. She is not just buying a room. She is buying a psychological reset that would be impossible to achieve in a world that operates on a standard clock. The financial cost of this temporal architecture is immense. It requires the hotel to maintain a much higher level of empty room inventory to allow for flexible checkouts. It requires a staff that is trained not just in service, but in behavioral observation and chronobiology. It requires a lighting and environmental control system that is far more complex than standard commercial grade. But for the 7-star guest, this is the defining characteristic of the experience. It is the feeling of being in a place where the world has stopped, and where their own internal rhythm is the only one that matters. However, even with the ability to control time, there is a physical reality that even the most advanced 7-star hotel must eventually confront. All of this service, all of this technology, and all of this architectural mastery must be delivered by a human being. And the training of these human beings is perhaps the most intense and secretive part of the entire operation. These are not just hotel employees. They are high-level operatives who have undergone a transformation that is more akin to elite military training than hospitality school. In our next section, we are going to look at the classified training manuals of the 7-star butler and the specific psychological techniques they use to remain entirely invisible while being simultaneously omnipresent. How do you train a human being to have no ego, no presence, and no detectable footprint, while still having the authority to manage the life of a billionaire? The answer lies in the psychological deconstruction of the modern service worker. The psychological deconstruction of a 7-star service professional begins with the total eradication of the individual ego. In a high-end 5-star hotel in a major American hub like New York or Miami, a server or a concierge is encouraged to have a personality. They are trained to be personable, to engage in polite small talk, and to build a rapport that feels authentically human. You might learn about their favorite local spots or their tenure with the hotel brand. This creates a warm, welcoming atmosphere that most luxury travelers find deeply appealing. However, in the 7-star echelon, this personal projection is viewed as a form of service pollution. The training for a 7-star butler, often conducted in secretive academies in the United Kingdom or Switzerland, is a grueling multi-month process that shares more DNA with diplomatic protocol training than traditional hospitality. These individuals are taught to become a human mirror. They do not project their own mood, their own opinions, or even their own physical presence. They are trained in the art of vanishing. Imagine if we look at a case study involving a butler named Thomas, who is assigned to a high-ranking sovereign wealth fund manager from Qatar, traveling to a private luxury villa in the year 2026. Thomas has been trained in the science of microspatial awareness. He knows exactly where to stand in a room so that he is technically within the guest's peripheral vision but occupies zero cognitive space. He is there if needed but invisible if not. This involves a mastery of posture, a specific controlled breathing technique to remain silent, and the use of specialized footwear with soft polymer soles that emit 0 decibels on marble or hardwood floors. Thomas has also undergone intensive training in microexpression analysis. Historical trends in elite service show that the most successful butlers can read a guest's emotional state before the guest has even fully processed it themselves. If Thomas notices a slight tightening of the guest's jaw or a specific rhythmic tapping of a finger on a table, he does not ask if everything is all right. That would require the guest to do the emotional labor of explaining. Instead, Thomas silently adjusts the environment. He might subtly increase the oxygen flow in the room, bring a specific chilled beverage known to be the guest's comfort drink, or quietly move a scheduled meeting by 10 minutes to provide the guest with a moment of unscheduled silence. The informational security training for these individuals is equally intense. A 7-star butler is essentially a walking vault of classified information. They see the private documents on the desk, they hear the high-stakes phone calls, and they witness the personal vulnerabilities of the world's most powerful people. To manage this, the butler is indoctrinated into a code of silence that is backed by ironclad, multi-million-dollar non-disclosure agreements. But more than legal threats, the training focuses on professional pride. They are taught that their value lies in their absolute discretion. They are trained to have a memory that is perfect for service but non-existent for gossip. Furthermore, we must analyze the concept of the invisible fixer. In a 5-star hotel, if you need a specific, rare item, the concierge makes phone calls from a desk. In a 7-star villa, Thomas has the authority and the direct line to global logistics that borders on the surreal. Let us look at a historical case study involving a guest who realized at 2 o'clock in the morning that they had forgotten a specific, sentimental piece of jewelry in a different country. The 7-star butler did not wait for business hours. They utilized the hotel's private courier network, coordinated with a local security firm in the other country to retrieve the item, and had it placed on the guest's bedside table before they woke up at 8 o'clock. The guest never saw the frantic international coordination, they only saw the result. This level of service requires a psychological profile that is rare in the modern workforce. It requires someone who is highly intelligent, culturally sophisticated, and capable of managing complex logistics, yet who derives total professional satisfaction from remaining entirely unacknowledged. The 7-star butler is the director of a play where they are never allowed to take a bow. They are the architects of a reality where the guest feels like a god, entirely unaware of the massive human effort required to maintain that illusion. But this raises a profound question about the future of this extreme industry. As we move deeper into 2026 and beyond, we are seeing the rise of a new challenge that even the most highly trained human butler cannot easily solve. We are entering the era of the hyper-digital elite. These are younger, tech-native billionaires who often find traditional, formal butler service to be stifling or outdated. They want the results of 7-star service, but they want it delivered through different channels. They want the invisibility, but they want to control it from their own encrypted devices. This shift is forcing 7-star hotels to undergo their most significant transformation in 50 years. They are having to integrate high-level human intuition with advanced predictive algorithms. They are building digital concierge interfaces that feel as intuitive and responsive as a human butler, but without the physical presence. This hybrid model, known as algorithmic hospitality, is the new frontier. It uses the massive datasets gathered from previous stays to create a personalized digital environment that follows the guest from property to property, adjusting the lighting, the temperature, the music, and even the digital art on the walls to match their real-time biometric state. However, as we look at the trajectory of this industry, we must also confront the ethical and social implications of such extreme wealth concentration and the infrastructure required to serve it. While the 7-star hotel represents the pinnacle of human achievement in engineering, service, and logistics, it also serves as a stark reminder of the widening chasm in the global experience of reality. For one person, a hotel is a place to sleep. For another, it is a billion-dollar fortress of solitude where the laws of time, physics, and global supply chains are temporarily suspended. As we conclude this deep dive masterclass, we have to look at the final, most important question: is it actually worth it? Does a $30,000 nightly rate truly deliver a superior human experience, or is there a point of diminishing returns where the gold, the marble, and the invisible butler stop adding value and start adding a layer of artificiality that actually detracts from the joy of travel? To answer this, we have to look at the emerging data on luxury satisfaction and the surprising trend of the ultra-wealthy seeking out what is now being called raw luxury. This is the move away from gold-plated faucets towards something far more expensive and far more difficult to find. And when you see what the next generation of 7-star travelers is willing to pay $50,000 a night for, it will completely change your understanding of what true luxury actually looks like. The shift we are witnessing in 2026 is the profound transition from material accumulation to experiential sovereignty. Historical trends in the ultra-high net worth sector indicate that once a physical luxury becomes replicable or widely recognized, it loses its primary value as a differentiator of status. Gold-plated bathroom fixtures, while expensive, are now a known quantity. They can be manufactured, photographed, and imitated. For the new generation of elite travelers, true luxury is found in the one thing that cannot be mass-produced: the unmanufactured, raw authenticity of the natural world, secured through an almost incomprehensible level of logistical effort. Imagine if we look at a case study involving Alex, a 34-year-old pioneer in autonomous infrastructure from Austin, Texas. In the year 2026, Alex has reached a level of success where a standard 5-star presidential suite in London or a gold-draped villa in Dubai feels like a corporate office. It is too structured, too predictable, and too connected. For his annual restorative cycle, Alex pays $50,000 per night for a 7-star experience located in a temporary, hyper-luxurious encampment in the heart of the Namib Desert. This is what industry analysts call the raw luxury paradigm. At this price point, you are not paying for the weight of the marble, you are paying for the logistical impossibility of your presence in that specific location. To facilitate Alex's stay, a dedicated engineering team spent 4 months scouting a specific topographical coordinate that offers the most precise, unpolluted view of the southern celestial hemisphere. They did not just pitch a tent, they constructed a semi-permanent, climate-controlled sanctuary with pressurized seals to keep out the desert dust. Utilizing the same dual-layered architectural circulation we discussed in Part 3 to ensure the service staff remains entirely invisible across the dunes. The $50,000 nightly rate covers the deployment of a private, dedicated satellite array to provide a secure, encrypted communication burst for exactly 10 minutes a day, should Alex choose to use it. The rest of the time, the site is a complete electromagnetic dead zone. In 2026, the ultimate 7-star luxury is the power to be unreachable. This is the exact opposite of the 5-star model, which prides itself on high-speed connectivity and instant accessibility. In the 5-star world, you are a VIP guest. In the 7-star raw world, you are a sovereign ghost. Let us rigorously analyze the staff evolution in this scenario. Alex does not have a traditional butler in a tuxedo. Instead, his dedicated 7-star team consists of what are known as expert guardians. These are individuals who hold doctoral degrees in fields like astrophysics, geology, or marine biology, but who have also been trained at the elite hospitality academies we analyzed in Part 9. When Alex looks at the stars, he isn't just looking at pretty lights. He has a world-class astronomer standing 10 paces behind him, ready to provide a deep-dive lecture on cosmic inflation or planetary formation at a moment's notice. This is the shift from service to intellectual companionship. The expert guardian is a peer who happens to be in a service role, providing a level of cognitive stimulation that a standard 5-star concierge simply cannot offer. Now, consider the culinary logistics of this $50,000 desert stay. In a 5-star hotel, you have a world-class kitchen. In Alex's desert camp, the kitchen is a masterpiece of nomadic engineering. The ingredient hunter we discussed in Part 7 has coordinated a cold chain supply line that involves 3 separate light aircraft drops and a final 4-wheel drive extraction to ensure that the sea urchin served at dinner was harvested in the cold waters of Hokkaido less than 24 hours prior. The potential outcomes of a single break in this chain are unacceptable. The chef is not just a cook. They are a nutritional biochemist who has calibrated every meal to Alex's current cortisol levels, which are subtly monitored via the biometric sensors embedded in the camp's furniture. This brings us to the critical analysis of diminishing returns. From a purely functional perspective, a 5-star hotel room provides everything a human being needs for comfort: a bed, food, safety, and hygiene. A $1,000 per night room is objectively excellent. A $10,000 per night 7-star suite provides extreme opulence. But the jump to $50,000 per night represents a shift into the realm of the statistically improbable. You are paying for the removal of all probability. You are paying to ensure that in a remote desert, there is 0 chance the water temperature fluctuates by half a degree, 0 chance an unauthorized person enters your 5-mile security perimeter, and 0 chance that the rare vintage of wine you prefer is unavailable, despite it being out of production for 3 decades. We must also examine the ethical and environmental engineering of these 2026 ultra-luxury sites. A 5-star hotel is a heavy footprint operation. A 7-star raw luxury site operates on a principle of total environmental neutrality. The $50,000 per night pays for a team of environmental scientists who ensure that when Alex leaves the desert, there is not a single microscopic trace of his existence left behind. Every drop of gray water is processed and removed, every footprint is raked, and the local ecosystem is often left in a better state than it was found, funded by the massive conservation fees baked into the nightly rate. This is luxury as a form of elite stewardship. So, is it actually worth it? Historical trends in the psychology of wealth suggest that for the ultra-elite, the answer is found in the concept of mental bandwidth. A 5-star hotel still requires you to navigate a world built for other people. You have to walk through the lobby, you have to choose from a menu, you have to interact with a system. A 7-star hotel, whether it is a gold-leafed palace or a desert sanctuary, is a world built entirely around your specific biological and psychological frequency. It is a place where the friction of existence has been engineered down to 0. When we compare the two, the difference is clear. 5-star is the pinnacle of the hospitality industry. 7-star is the pinnacle of human engineering and psychological mastery. One is about being a very important customer. The other is about being the center of a temporary, perfectly controlled universe. As we move further into 2026, the line between these two will only continue to widen. The gold and the marble will remain for those who want to see their wealth, but the true 7-star experience will continue to move into the shadows, into the silent places, and into the raw, unmanufactured corners of the earth where the only sound you hear is the one you choose to listen to. If you are curious about how these ultra-luxury brands are currently using artificial intelligence to predict guest desires before they even make a booking, you should watch our upcoming deep dive on the algorithmic future of high-end travel.